Melissa Sartini's gross pay is $52,000 a year. The state income tax rate is 3% of taxable wages. Melissa takes a married exemption for herself and her husband. How much is withheld each year for state income tax? All right, let's think about this. So what is the problem asking us to solve for? Well, it's asking us to solve how much is withheld each year for state income tax. So we'll know we're done with this problem when we're able to say income tax withheld equals blank. Now let's consider what we already know. So we know that her gross pay is $52,000 a year. We also know that the income tax rate is 3%, and we know that she has a married exemption. Now, according to this personal exemption form, the married exemption is worth $4,000. So let's plan out how we're going to do this. So we want to be able to say income tax withheld equals something. So how are we going to get there? Well, first, we need to know how much taxable income she has. We know her income, but because she has exemptions, not all of that income is taxable. So, step one is going to be to find her taxable income. Once we have her taxable income, we can find 3% of that taxable income, and that will be her income tax withheld. Okay, so let's start by finding her taxable wages. Well, that's just your gross pay minus any exemptions. So in this case, her gross pay is $52,000, and we know she gets a marriage exemption of $4,000. Now when they say she takes a married exemption for herself and her husband, they don't mean to subtract that exemption off twice. So this part's a little redundant. All they needed to say was Melissa takes a married exemption. So we're going to take $52,000 and subtract off $4,000, which means that her taxable wages are $48,000. So now we know that she gets taxed 3% on $48,000. Remember, tax withheld is just the taxable wages multiplied by the tax rate. So our taxable wages are $48,000. Our rate is 3%, which means that our final income tax withheld is going to be $1,440. So let's review. We started by reading the problem and identifying the question we needed to solve. We made note of all the information that we knew, including information in the table. Then we made a plan. I said, okay, we need to know taxable wages, and once we know the amount of money that's getting taxed, we can just find 3% of that amount, and that will give us our income tax withheld. So remember, as you're doing these problems in your workbook, start by thinking about the problem, planning your attack, and then executing your solution.